Assalamu alaikum. Hi, how are you? My name is Sajid and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will talk about Python casting. Yeah. So in one previous video, we talked about casting a little bit, but here we will look it into some more detail. So what is casting? There are these lines are very important. So there may be times when you want to specify a type onto a variable. So if you remember from previous video that we define variable and its type is actually type depends on what type of data you store in it. Yeah. So but if you want to specifically define what kind of data or type of data to be stored in the variable, you can use casting. Yeah. So Python, as you know, is an object-oriented language, and as such it uses classes to define data types, including its primitive types. Yeah. So this is important. Yeah. So we can, it's as you know, it's like object-oriented programming, and all data types, including its primitive types, these use classes, yeah, to define them. So casting in Python is therefore done using constructor functions. Yeah. So these three functions, int, and with this bracket, float, and string, these three are constructors of int, float, and string classes. So what does int do? It constructs an integer number from an integer literal, a float literal by removing all the decimals, or a string literal providing the string represents a whole number. So it means this int can take three type of inputs, either integer, which is normal, but if we use float string number to convert to integer, its decimal point will be removed. And similarly, if we use a string, it will be converted to integer. And next is float. This constructor, what it does do is if we provide integer to it, it will assign a decimal number to it and convert it to and store it as a float. If we provide a float, so that will be float is float. If we give a string, it will save it as a float number. And string, this constructor, what it does is that if you give input of integer, it will convert it to string. Similarly, if its input is float, it will be converted to string, and string is already a string. Yeah. So let's look at this example. Okay. In this example, we are using int constructor, and we have given three inputs: 1, 2.8, and 3. So when 1 is, as you know, is an integer, so it will be stored as an integer. 2.8, as you know, on the right side, output is 2, and 0.8 is removed. And when you input 3, this text is converted to integer. It's stored in the Z, and when you print it, the answer is 3. Okay, so next look at second constructor to do casting of float point numbers type. So here we are converting 1 to float, storing into X, and what is stored in there is 1.0. Then we have float, which is 2.8, same stored. When you have 3, this is a string, it is stored as 3.0, yeah, floating point number. and when we have 4.2, it is stored as 4.2, yeah, as a floating point number, and before it was a string. Yeah, so this is how float works. Now the last thing is string. You know, we are in our first example, we are giving a string and it is stored as a string s1, and second line we are giving an integer, it is stored as a string s2, and then we are giving a float and it is stored as a string in the variable z. Okay guys, this was a short video, simple concept, and I would like to wrap up video here. And here we have learned the concept of casting and all data types in Python language. They use classes to define data types, including its primitive data types. So primitive data types are these, you know, you have seen in one previous video, integer, float, string. Yeah, so so I'll be back with another video soon. So do subscribe to this channel, share this video if you think it has been informative for you. So I'll be back soon. By that time, take care and bye for now.